just started this chapter, but we have done only one topic, that is how to create the methods. So now my question is, first of all, what is a method? Okay. Yeah, so method is a collection of statements like a function in the C and the C++. When we combine multiple statements or the multiple instructions together in a block, together in a scope, together within the curly braces, that is known as a method. So a Java method is a collection of the statements that are grouped together to perform any operation. For example, if I'm talking about the same example that we discussed in the Fridays class, that is the same example of the calculation. There are four parts of the calculation. For example, addition, subtraction, division, multiplication. So the main class is the calculation, and that is divided into sub-program, that is divided into four functions. One function name is addition, next second function name is subtraction, then third is the division, and fourth is the multiplication. Now, next question arises, what is the use of creating the functions, or what is the main advantage of creating the function of the method? The main advantage is that if I create one function, for example, if I create the addition function, the same function will be used in the multiple programs at the same time. There's no requirement for writing the same program or same function again and again, because that function is available. So we are going to use the same function within the multiple programs. It saves our time. It saves the time for the developer. This is one of the main advantage. In the other way, or another advantage, is that the bugs are also checked very easily. That means if there is any error, so that will be checked very easily, because the main program is divided into multiple functions, multiple methods. So it's very easy to judge out where is the problem, either in the first block, either in the second block. But if there is no function in the program, that looks like a hodgepodge in the program, so it's very difficult to find the bugs in that program. But if it is divided into multiple modules, multiple functions, so it's very easy to find the errors in the program. So there are two advantages of the method, or there are two advantages of the method or the function. One is the time saving, and one is the reuse again and again. That means that the same concept is a time saving, and another one is the finding the bugs or finding the errors in the program. So a method is a collection of the program that has grouped together to perform any operation, and when we use system.out.println method to print the concept, so a method is print on a console basis. In this chapter, we will be going to learn about how to invoke the method, what are the various methods, and what are the various return type. One is without the parameters, one is with the parameters. Now you know the term parameters. Any confusion regarding the term parameters? This is nothing but the argument that we give in the brackets. For example, if I write int calculation, and in the brackets I write two arguments, for example a and b. That means these are of category of the calculation, and a and b are the variables. So for example, this is one of the syntax that is given for creating a function. So this is a syntax how to create a function. First one is modifier. Modifier means that may be an int, that may be or we can say this is a compiler that is used how to access the function, how to use the function. Then there is a return value type. This means what is the return type or return value type for the function. Then there is a method name. So one is a modifier, that means, or that tells the compiler how to use the function, how to access the function. Then there is a return type. Function return which type of value, that may be int, that may be a float, at any type that will be returned. So what is the return type? So that means what is the output return type of the return value type. The next one is the method name. Method name means the function name. For example, same example, addition. The next one is list of parameters. This is what I'm talking about. That means what are the various parameters that is used within the brackets. Then there is a curly braces for starting out the function, and this is our definition or statement. Whatever the definition or whatever the statement that we want to give within the method, within the function, that is declared over here. So that this will be available within the curly braces, and then at last there is closing of the curly braces. That means closing of the function. So this is the main syntax of the method or the function. In C++ or the C, we use a term as a function. In Java, we use a term as a method. But there's no difference, or we can say there is a little bit difference between the syntax or between the function and the method. What is the main difference? There is a difference in the syntax only. So this contains, or this syntax is divided into four parts. One is a modifier, one is a return value type, then there is a method name, then there is a list of parameters. And this is already given in the paragraph form, so read it out for 5 minutes, and if there is any doubt, then ask the doubts. The same concept that I'm talking about, this modifier, the same that tells a compiler how to use a method. Return type means what is the data type that is to be returned or the method returns. Then method name, that is the actual name of the function or the method. And parameter, so that is used to pass the value as a parameter, that will be the type or and the number of the parameter. Next is the method body, so that means this collection of the statement that defines what the method does. So see these 5 points. If there is any doubt, anyone. Now let's move to the next part. This is the example that is given for defining the method or creating the method. One of the best example that also illustrate what is a modifier, what is a return type, what is a method name, what are the various former parameter or the actual parameter. This one is define a method. First term is modifier. The same. There are two types of modifier in this one that will be used. That is either public or static. Public means that is publicly derived, that is publicly accessible. Static means that is closed. So one is a public, one is static. There are two types of modifier, public and the static. Then return type. Return type means the data type, or the return type means the value will be returned by the function. Which type of value? That may be int, that may be float. That is any data type. So next one is a return type or a return value, that may be int, that may be a float, that may be double, and any value that is returned with the use of the function or with the use of the method. Then this is the method name. As per this example, the method name is a max, that is finding the maximum value out of the available value. Then these are the parameters. The first parameter or the first function or variable is number, that is of the int type. Then next one is num2, that is also of the int type. So int num1 and int num2. Then there is a curly braces for this one, opening curly brace, and this is one of the function, this is one of the variable that is declared over here, int result. So now again one more variable is declared inside the method, inside the function, that is the result. Now check for the method body. If the num1 is greater than num2, that means if the number 1 that is given as one of the argument is greater than the number 2, then result is a number 1. That means if the first value is maximum than the number 2, so result is a number 1. And if the second value, so if the first value is not greater, so second value is greater, so num2 is the greater. So that's why we are using, or that's why this example uses the else part. So if num1 is greater than num2, then result equals to num1. Else or otherwise result equals to num2. Then return result. This is how to define a method. Now, any doubt in this example? Yes, the return type of this one is int. How do I know that the return type is int? Because it is declared over here, int maximum. That means it gives only the integer value. There is no float value that is available. Let's say example, or for example, if float value is arrived over here, so what is the main role of the integer that converts the float value into the integer? For example, if I'm talking about the 98.4 or 98.5, it automatically converts round of the figure into the integer value, discrete value. For example, 98.4 becomes 98, and 98.5, that is 5 or 5 more than 5, that becomes 99. And in different languages, method are also known as the procedures and the functions. This is one of the example of finding the max function, the same example that we have discussed in the example form or format of parameter example form. Yes, we can also use with the curly braces. For example, if I want to use a curly brace within the else part, it is okay, not an issue. Now, what is the main role of curly braces is that if there are multiple else parts, so do not confuse with else part, or do not confuse with the multiple, or we can say the nested if else, so we use the curly braces. So if I'm not using the curly brace, it's okay. The function will run or the program will run automatically like when we compile the program. Next is how to use the method, or how to create, or how to call the method. So how to invoke the method in simple terms. So after creating a method, after we have created the method, what is the main method, how we can use it, we give a definition of what the method is to do. That means what is the main method that is to do. To use a method, you have to use or we have to call or invoke it. There are two ways of invoking a method. The choice is based on the method returns a value. So if the method returns a value, there is a different concept of invoking a function, and the method does not return a value. That means there is no return type. So there is another way of returning the method. So it depends on the method to method. Now, when the program invokes a method, automatically the control will be transferred to the next program, or we can see the definition of the program, or we can see the calling method. So when the calling program or when the method is calling, then the program will, or the program control is transferred to the called method. And this method returns the control to the caller when its return statement is executed, or when its method ending closing brace is stitched. So automatically when it reaches to the closing brace, the method will end up or method will end out. Now, if the method returns a value, invoking of the method is usually treated as a value. This is one of the example. Int larger. So we are creating one variable. Name of the variable is larger. That is of the int category. That is equals to max 30 and the 40. So in case of maximum function, the same function definition is given over here. We have to find the maximum out of the 30 and the 40. And in this, the num2 variable has highest value. So this will go to the else part. As per this example, this is over here. This will go to the else part. Why? Because 30 is greater than 40. No, that is not correct. 30 is less than 40. So if we go to the else part, that is else result equals to num2. Now num2 is a 40 value. In this method, or if the method returns a void, known to the function invoking of the method must be a statement. For example, the method println returns the void. This is the example, system.out.println, welcome to the Java. In this case, there is no return type because this is the statement that is given like a cout or the printf. Cout in the C++ and C in the C only. So, sorry, printf in the C and cout in the C++. There is no return type for system.out.println, welcome to Java. Now this is one of the examples. The following is an example demonstrate how to define a method and how to use it. Public class test max, that means there is a class that is declared test max, then public static void main string args, same lines. Now there are two variables that is declared. One variable is I that contains the value as a 5, then variable that contains the value as a 2. Next variable is declared to store the value or store the output of the maximum out or maximum of the 5 and the 2, that is I and j. So int k equals to max ij. You have to find the maximum value of among the 5 and the 2. What is the maximum value? That is 5. So now if we go to the first part, do not go to the else part. The first part is num1. Num1 is greater than the num2. Yeah, it's okay. 5 is greater than 2. So the num1 value has 5. System.out.println and the maximum value is plus I. Plus I means plus I plus and plus j. That means it is 5 plus 2, that is a 5. So this is the next function that is available over here. Now, whenever we use whenever we invoke the method, whenever we invoke the function, that automatically jump to the definition of the function. Now, this is the definition of the function. This is available after the void main or after the main part. This is public static void or public static int max. Now look carefully. This is the public. That means the modifier is public as per the syntax. Then static means that is constant when we compile the program. Then int, that is a return type for the function. Now, what is the function name? That is max. So max is the name of the function. Int is a return type. That means it returns integer value only. It do not return the float value, that means decimal value, but it only returns a whole value, integer value, discrete value. So public means a modifier, static means a modifier, int means return type, that is the function return type, then max means the name of the function. Then there are two arguments in the brackets, one is int num1, int num2. Int num1 means number 1, int num2 means number 2. Int num1 and the int num2. Then there is the curly braces, Next part is int result. So we have created on one more variable inside the function, that is a statement of the function, that is result. Next one is same, if function will be used, if statement is used, if num1 is greater than num2, result is num1, otherwise result is num2. At last return the results. Now Joseph, can you tell me what is the return type of the result? What is the value of the result, we can say? Yes, its value is 5. Why? Because we are checking the 5 and the 2, and 5 is greater than the 2. So our work is easy for this one. So result contains 5, and a result variable will be printed, return, that is 5. When it returns the value, now listen carefully, when it returns the value, it automatically jumps to the first part, that is only this function. Now this return type, that means whatever the value returned from the maximum function, that will be going, that will be transferred, that will be stored, that will be assigned to the variable number or variable name k. Again I am repeating, after compiling this function, after done with this function, that is the max function, this is the starting, this is the closing curly brace. Whenever there is a statement return result, that means we are going to return the result of the, or we can say the value of the result. Now what is the value of the result? That is a 5. It automatically goes to the function from where we call the function, from where we invoke the function. This will go to the k. Why? Because we are giving that k equals to max ij. Now the 5 will be stored in the k, and at last we are going to print the value by using the variable k. So the maximum between the I and the j is 5 and the 2 is 5. And there's a closing of the curly. And any doubts in this program? Look this program for 2 minutes, and any doubts, then please share the doubts. Yes, in this part there is no requirement of the else, but we have to give the else part. Why? As per the previous example, if the second value is greater, so how we can judge or how we can print the value? It's mandatory to give the else part also. In this case, there is no example, but if the second value is greater than the first value, then there is a requirement of the else part. So in the safer side, we have to use the else part. Any doubts in this program? This is the explanation of the program. This program contains the main method and the mixed method. This is the main method. If I'm talking about the main method, this is the main method, that is public static void main string args, like a main function in the C and the C++. And main method is just like any other method except that is invoked by the JVM machine, the same theory that is available. And the header file is the same. Yes, everything is the same. Now next one is void keyword. Now in this method, in this example, we are going to declare a void method. That void method means the method that is invoked that returns nothing, that is a void method. For example, this is a program that declares a method name print grade and invoke it to print the grade for a given scenario or for a given scale. So if there is any scale that is given for the student, there's a marks, for example, there's a marks in the IT subject, or we can say computer subject or English subject. So how to declare a name, or how to print a method, or how to print the result in terms of the grade sheet. So this is a test void method. Test void method is the name of the class. The same next one is the void main, that is the starting of the function, public static void main string args. Now, next one is we are declaring that print grade 78.5. So this is the name of the function. Now, whenever it executes the function, it automatically passes to the definition of the function. Now, what is the definition of the function? This is the definition. This is public static void print grade. Now, my question is to Joseph. Tell me, what is this public? Okay, this is a modifier. Then this is static. This is also a modifier. Then my question is to Larry. What is the meaning of void? This is the return type of the function. Yeah, very good. So it returns a value as a void. That means the null value will be returned. There is no integer, there is no float. So a return value will be gathered, or the null value will be returned, because we are using the function, we are using the data type as a void. That is void print grade double scope. Now, what is the main usage of the void? Why we are using the void? In case if our program does not run perfectly, and if there is any value that is required or that becomes output, that is a garbage value. So if I want that the garbage value will not arrive, only the error will show. So we use the keyword as a void. So we can say for saving of the garbage value, to keep safe from the garbage value, we use the void data type. Then there is a double score. This is the parameter, and the score is the name of the variable that is of the type double. This is the curly brace, closing, opening curly brace. Now, if score is greater than 90.0, now if I'm talking about the score, if I'm calculating the score, if the score is greater than 90.0, and we are given the score also, that is 78.5, if it is greater than 90, then system will print, or the output will print as a system.out.println A, right? Then else means otherwise. Otherwise, if the score is greater than 80, if it is greater than 80 means 78.5 is not greater than 80, then system.out.println B. That means if it is greater than 80, then B. Next one is if score is greater than 70. Now, our score is greater than 70, it is okay. Now, it will print the output. Remember, this is available as a greater than or equals to. If it is equals to the 70.00000, this will print the output as a C, because if this is greater than and equals to. And otherwise, else it is greater than 60.0, then it is a D. So this is the score of the student. If it is greater than 60, then D grade. Greater than 70, then C grade. Then greater than 80, then B. Greater than 90, A. So this will be available within the if, nothing else. Then if, else if, else if, else if. Then else system.println F. That means if it is less than 60, then the student will fail, that is F grade. So there are four categories: 60, 70, 80, 90, not below than the 60. R function, R value that is given is 78.5. That is of the double. Yeah, it's okay. It is double. Check for the condition. It is greater than 60. It is greater than 60. It is greater than 70. It is greater than 70. So this will print the output as a C. Why it is C? Because it is greater than or equals to 70. So 78.5 is greater than the 70 value, so the output becomes C. Output becomes C. Why? It is greater than 70 value or 70.000. Again, I am repeating the program. This is a program that is used to invoke, or that is used to print the grade for a given scenario or given score. For example, the score of the student is something different. Score of the student is something different. Score of a student is something different. So if the score is greater than 90, then A. If it is greater than 80, then it is B. If it is greater than 70, C. Greater than 60, D, and so on till D grade, that is greater than 60. Otherwise, if it is less than 60, then it prints the output as a F. And as per my program, this is the function calling. When we call the function, it automatically jumps to this part, and this argument automatically takes the value as a 78.5. Why it is taking the value as 78.5? Because we are giving the argument 78.5. Now this will print the output as a C. Now this curly brace will be closed for this else part, and it is starting over here. This is the opening of this public static void print grade function. Then this is the closing of this one, and this last one is closing of the main function. Now here the print grade method is a void method. That means it does not return any value. Whenever we use a void method, that must be a statement. So it is invoked as a statement in line number 2, the same. And each and every statement in the Java is terminated by the semicolon. This program is clear to each and everyone. In this program, we talk about how to declare and how to invoke a void method. And there are 4 scenarios. We are taking the 4 if greater than 90, greater than 80, greater than 70, greater than 60. And there are 4 grades A, B, C, D. So any doubts anyone in this program? Let's move to the next one, how to pass the parameters by value. What is the criteria of passing the values? What is the criteria of passing the parameter by the values? So when we use a method, when we call a method, you need to provide the arguments that must be given in the same order as we give in the method specification. For example, if I'm talking about this 78.5, it is of the double type, and we are giving over here double and score. If it is available in a double, for example 78.5, it is available, or if I wrote the program, if I write the function as an int, this is mismatch and the function program will not work. That means whatever the parameter we are giving at the time of calling, that must be same as the when we use the invoke function, when we use the call function. So parameter must be same, data type must be same of the calling function as well as the call function. Remember, I'm repeating again. If I'm invoking the function, the data type, whatever the data type we give, that may be an int, that may be a float, that must be same when we invoke the function, when we give the definition of the function. That means there is no mismatch between the actual argument and the formal arguments. Now, question arises, this is question from your side basically. What is the main difference between the actual arguments and the formal arguments? Or what is the actual arguments? Actual arguments is arguments that is, we can say the arguments that is invoked when we invoke the function. As per this example, I'm invoking the function with the print rate 78.5. That means it is a function or it is a type, that is a double type I'm invoking. So this is the actual arguments. When this program is, or when this function is going to define the value, that is a called function. This is as per this example, you see my screen. You're able to see my screen perfectly. First of all, okay. So this dark circle, or this dark line, dark area, we can say the selected area. This is the data type. This is of the double type. This is known as a formal parameter. So what is the actual parameter? This area. Then what is the actual? Sorry, what is the actual parameter? This area. What is the formal parameter? This area. Now these formal and the actual parameter must be same. That means if I'm defining the value as a double, in this case also the double value will be defined. So there is no mismatch between the actual parameter and the formal parameter. Now if I compile my program, so what is the actual parameters? So whatever the parameters, whatever the values, return type we are giving at the time of calling the program, that is known as the actual parameter. And one of the more trick to remember of the actual parameter, that in the calling program we are using the semicolon. So actual parameters are used with the semicolon and formal parameters are used without the semicolon. Okay. So actual parameter means at the time of calling the program. Formal parameters means at the time of giving the definition of the program, using the definition of the function. Okay. Now where we were. So that actual parameters and the formal parameters must be same. The data type, the return type, everything is same. Otherwise, there will be error in the program. The program will not run efficiently and effectively. Output will arise, no doubt. That is a garbage value. There is no usage of the garbage value. Right. Next one is passing the parameters by value. We are not using the reference variable, referencing. Well, now we have to go, or we are going to pass the parameters by value. So when calling a method, you need to provide the arguments which must be given in the same order as their respective parameter in the method specification. So when we invoke the function in that specification, or we have to provide the arguments, that arguments must be given in the same order as we give in the method specification. This is known as the parameter order association. Now this is the example. If I'm giving a string message int n, when we give the definition of the program, give the definition of the function, the syntax remains the same, or the content remains the same. First type is of the string type, the next type is of the data type. That is the int n. So as per this example, we are giving the function, we are invoking the function. This is public static void main, public static void and println string message int n. Then using the for loop, it initializes with the 0, then I is less than n, I plus plus, then system.out.println message. So whatever the message value that is used, so that will be printed as it is in the println form. So system.out.println message. Here you can use nprintln hello2 or hello3 to print the hello3 times. The println hello3 statement passes the actual string arg parameter. Concept is arrived, that is the actual parameter. and this will print the hello for the 3 times. And when you invoke a method with a parameter, the argument or the value of the parameter is passed to the parameter, and this is known as a pass by value. Same concept that I'm using, that if I'm passing the value between the actual parameters and the formal parameter, the value becomes, or that becomes a pass by value. Now, if we are using the variable rather than the value, then it is a passing the values or passing the variable as a parameter. So passing the variable as a address, we can say. So one is the passing the value or pass by value, one is pass by reference. And for simplicity, Java programmers say passing an argument to a parameter, which means passing the value of x to the y. Now, this is the next program. What your task is that you study this program by your own. Any doubts, then please ask the doubts. Read out the program carefully. Or just do one thing, let's take line by line. Right? So first one is public class test pass by value. We are creating the class, that is name of the class is test pass by value, right? Then there is the opening curly brace. In the opening curly brace, there is a public static void main string args. We are defining two values. One is a num1, one is a num2. In the num1, there is a 1 value. In num2, it is stored as a 2 value. So this is 1 and the 2. Any doubts till here? In the first part, we are creating the class. Name of the class is test pass by value. In the second line, we are creating the static void main string args, and we are declaring the two variables as the num1 and the num2, and the num1 contains the 1, num2 contains 2. The system.out.println before swap method. So before swapping the values, before changing the value or interchanging the value, num1 is plus num1. So num1 is given as a plus num1 and num2 is given as a plus num2. So before swapping, num1 is given as a 1 and num2 is given as a 2. Now, use the invoke function or invoke the swap function. This is swap. Swap means interchanging. In computer terms, it is used as a swap. Swap means interchanging the values. One value becomes the next value becomes the first value. So swap num1 and the num2. This is swapping or interchanging the value. What are the value that is changing? That is num1 and the num2. Then system.out.println after swap method. So this is before swap method, what is a value? Next one is after swap method, what is a value? So after swap method, num1 is plus num1 and num2 is plus num2. After swapping, num1 becomes 2 and num2 becomes 1. So this, whenever we use the swap function, this cursor automatically goes to the next part, or we can say the definition of the function. This is the calling function or invoking a function. This is the definition or called function. Public static void swap int n1 int n2. Now, in this part, there is a num1 and the num2 that is of the int category. In this, again, we are declaring the function as a n1 and the n2. Now, num1 becomes n1 and num2 becomes n2, and these two, we can say the variable are of the data type integers int. Then system.out.println. This is inside the swap method. Then system.out.println before swapping n1, that is n1 and n2 is plus n2. Next, swap n1 with the n2. This now how to swap the values? We take the next variable or we take the new variable as a temp. New variable is temp. First of all, put the value of num1 or n1 into the temp. Now n1 becomes empty. Listen carefully. We are taking the new variable as a temp and we are going to store the n1 value into the temp. Now n1 becomes vacant because the value is stored into the temp, right? Now we are going to take out the value of the n2 and store in the n1 because n1 becomes empty. N1 value is available in the temp, right? So now the n1 n2 value is stored in the n1. After that, whatever the value that is available in the temp variable is now going back to the n2. Why? Because now n2 becomes vacant because n2 value is given into the n1. So now our task is done. There is no usage of the temp variable, that is only a temporary variable. Now n1 takes a value as a n2 and n2 takes a value as a n1 with the help of the temp variable, because temp contains n1 value and temp value is going, or we are inserting the temp value into the n1 or n2. Then system.out.println after swapping n1. So after swapping, what is the value? That is n1 and the n2. So these are the methods. So before swap methods, num1 is 1 and the num2 is 2. Then inside the swap method, before swapping, n1 is 1 and n2 is 2. Then after swapping, n1 is 2, n2 is 1. And after swap method, n1 is 1 and the n2 is 2. This program is clear to each and everyone. This is nothing but taking the num value, num value, num value. Any doubts, anyone in the num value or how to take the num value? What is the advantage of taking the num value? What is the benefit of using the num value? Any doubts, anyone? Next one is overloaded method. That means we are using the same variable with the same method, that is overloaded. When we use the same function name, when we use the same function with the two variables or with more than one variable, with more than one argument parameter, that is known as the overloaded method. So the max method that we used earlier works only with the integer data type. Now, this is the time that the max method also works with the double integer or double data type. So the float or which of the following float points have a maximum value. The solution is to create another method with the same name or with the different parameters. So this is public static double max. So this is of the public type and static, then the return type is double and the value or the variable name is max. Then double num1 double num2. Now if num1 is greater than num2, that means the num1 value is greater than the num2, then return the num1, otherwise return the num2. So if the num1 is greater than num2, return type is num1 and the return type is num2 otherwise. Now if we use the max function with int parameters, the max method that expects int parameters would be invoked. So whenever we invoke the function, the first parameter that will be available that invokes the function, and if you use or call the max with a double parameter, the max function that expects double parameter will be invoked. This is known as a method overloading. That is, two methods have the same name but with different parameter list. So we are using the same name, but the argument list or the variable list, or we can say the arguments parameter are different. So same name with different parameter, that is known as overloaded method. That means the method name is same, but the parameters are different. Parameters are changing from time to time. That is known as a method overloading. So Java compiler determines which method is used based on the method signature, and overloading methods can make the program clearer and more readable, and methods that perform closely related tasks should be given the same name. And overloaded methods must have a different parameter list. So whatever the parameter list, whatever the scenarios that is used, so we are going to use must have a different parameter list. You cannot overload the methods based on the different modifiers or the return type. Sometimes there are two or more possible matches for an invocation of a method due to the similar method signature. So the compiler cannot determine the most specific match. That is known as the ambiguous invocation. That is overloaded method. Next one is scope of variables. What is the main scope of variable? Or that is a part of the program where the variable can be referenced. And the variable that is defined inside a method is known as a local variable, that is scope. So whenever we declare the variable within the function, that is a local variable to that function. And when we declare the variable beyond the function, or we can say the beyond the void main, that is the main program, that is a global variable. So there are two parts. One is a local, that is within the curly braces. One is a global, that is beyond the, or we can say the above the void main. So the scope is a part of the program where the variable can be referenced. So variable defined inside the method or inside the curly braces, that is known as a local variable. And scope starts from the declaration and continues to end of the block that continues the variable or contains the variable. A parameter is actually a local variable, and the scope of the method or parameter method covers the entire program. And variable declared in the initial action of a method, initial part of the method, has its scope in the entire loop, but a variable that is declared inside the for loop has limited scope in the body at the end of the block. This is public static void main method 1. Then for int I equals to 0, I less than 1, I plus plus. So in this program, this int j is a local variable because it is declared within the function int j. It starts with the I equals to 0, then I less than 10, I plus plus, and int j is inside the curly braces, so it is available, or it is declared as a local variable with the same name multiple times. And there is no global variable in this program. Now, how to use a command line argument? What is a command line argument? That is the information that directly follows the program name on the command line. So whenever we use the program name directly on the command line, for example, we use the MS-DOS, that is a disk operating system, for compiling the programs. So when it directly moves to the program, it directly moves to the program name on the command line, it is executed. So we are using the command line arguments. How to use the command line arguments? By using the ARGS, that is string ARGS, so arguments. Then next is how to invoke the constructor. So whenever we use the constructor that initializes an object, it is created. So for example, when I create the object of a class, so I use to initialize the object as a constructor, and it has the same name as a class name. So constructor name is the same as the class name. For example, if I use the class name as a test demo, so constructor name is also the same, and this is similar to a method. We can say that everything syntax is similar. Little bit difference between this one. Now let's see what is the main difference. The method have a return type, but the constructor does not have a return type. We studied that method have a return type that may be in the form of integer, float, double, anything, but the constructor do not have a return type. And you will use the constructor to give the initial values to perform the operations, but we are not able to give the initial values in the method. But we are initializing the value, we are declaring the variable, then initialize the value. That is a different issue, but we are not going to suppose or we are not going to declare the variables within the methods. And each and every class have a constructors whether you define or no, because Java automatically provides a default constructor. This is an example how to use the constructors. This is class, my class. Name of the class is my class, and this is the constructor function. What is the difference between this one? This is the class keyword that is available with the class name, my class. This is the constructor because it is available with the blank parenthesis. This is like a function, my class. This is the example of the simple constructors. Then next one is a variable argument that is done by the var arguments or var args, and finalize function is used for whenever we use to or whenever we use the final descriptor by the garbage collector, that is known as that is done by the finalize. So when the project terminates, that is done by the finalize function. This is the syntax protected by finalize and finalization code over here. And the keyword protected is a specifier that prevents access to finalize by the code defined outside its class. That means you cannot know, or you cannot know whenever initialize or if initialize will be executed. And if your program ends before the garbage collection occurs, the finalize will not execute. Now let's talk about this program. One is a program that is public class var arguments demo. When we are declaring the variables as a public static void main, then print max, we have to print the maximum value out of these values 34,332, 56.9. Then print max new double 123. Now public static void print max in double numbers. If numbers dot length, so whatever the numbers or what is the length of the number, that is 0, so there are no argument that is passed over. the numbers dot length equals to 0. Checking for the length value. If it is equals to 0, then there is a syntax or there is a line that is printed over here, no arguments passed. Then taking the next variable as a double, that also stores the value of the first integer of the first number that is at the place of the 0. Then using the for loop, it starts with the 1, then it starts with number dot length and I plus plus. If num1 is, or if num I, that is number 1 is greater than the result, then it is a maximum value, otherwise it is a minimum value. Now we are finished with this chapter, that is chapter number 17, Java methods. Next chapter is the chapter number 18, Java streams, file length and input. Now remember about the C++ and the C, we are using the streams, that is if stream, off stream, and only the stream. In the same way, in the Java program, there is also a stream. That means a buffer location for storing the file, for storing the strings. That is the Java streams. Files, how to work with the files. First of all, we have to open the file. Remember about the C++. We have to open the file, that is file.open. And what are the various input-output operations? How we can give the input in the programming, how we can take the output in the programming. So this chapter I'm going to continue, or I'm going to, we can say, start in the next class, that is in the tomorrow's class. So let's finish the class over here, and if there is any doubts, any clarification regarding the assignment, regarding the modules, any module, not the Java module, any modules, we can clarify the doubts. And in the next class, that is in the tomorrow's class, I'm going to start with the next topic, next chapter, that is chapter number 18, Java streams, files and input. So any doubts, anyone, or any clarifications, anyone? Okay. Yes, it depends on the module to module. If you are, if the module is, we can say, the small, so that will be covered within the one assignment also, or only. And if it's a large module, large, we can say more outcomes, more values, so it will be available, or it will be split into the 2 modules or 2 assignments. So it depends on the module to module. It is not specific that only one assignment is given for one module. That is not okay. Yeah, in case if the module is so large, so that also divided into 3 assignments. So it depends. But generally it is divided into one part or one assignment or the 2 assignments. It depends on the LO's learning outcomes. Any other doubts? So